point and go, come on, you lot. You know, you can't do that when you play bass. Hey, let's take it down to the bass and drums and clap it. Oh, I'm playing back. You know, you can't do that.
Today, Planet Guitar talks with the Sex Pistols and the Rich Kids bassist, Glen Matlock. Glen, thanks for joining us today.
All right, good morning. Well, good morning for me, Paul. I'm beaming to you live from West Hollywood in Los Angeles. And I'm here because I'm playing bass with Blondie at the moment. And
Okay.
we're doing a series of festivals, and we're doing, well, we did one Coachella and we got another Coachella. You do it over weekends. And we're doing the Greek Theatre in the Griffith Park tomorrow night. And that's kind of a lovely venue. I played it with the Sex Pistols, so that's kind of cool. I've been a busy boy.
Oh, great. Thank you for
Yeah.
finding time to see us. The last time we chatted, you had just had several of your guitars stolen,
Oh,
including your 1961 Ivory Fender Precision bass. Did you ever hear anything about that?
yeah. And I put the word out.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't a good idea to put the word out because then people think it's worth something
Yeah.
and go a bit strum, you know. So, yeah, so nothing as yet, but I'll keep looking. I'll keep
Well,
looking.
it's been a few years. I thought I'd mention it because a lot of guitarists are going to listen to this, and we'd love to return it to you.
I'd love it more than anything else. It was my pride and joy, and it kind of even put me off bass playing for a while because every time you pick up a bass, it's not like the one that got tea leaved, you know. So, but anyway, I've got over that now. But it was upsetting.
Yes. Well, turning to something more positive, you've just released your rocking new solo album, Consequences Coming. What was
Yeah.
your inspiration for it?
Well, I think from the title, and there's a single out called Head on a Stick, you might kind of get where I'm coming from a little bit. I think the general populace of Britain has been hoodwinked over the past 4 or 5 years, and just think they'd wise up a little bit. I think the English should be more like the Scots in terms of their politics, and especially if you're a touring musician, it's done nobody any favours at all. You know, we've been out to tour and unfettered without let or hindrance. Hang on 1 second. Without let or hindrance
Yes.
for tour in Europe, you know, you can kind of do it, but it's such a pain now. Yeah, so there you go. Consequences coming. I think a few more people are beginning to see a light at the end of the tunnel and seeing the ridiculousness of the lurch to the right in the Western world that we've had over recent years. I don't know what your politics are, but I think what's happened is shocking, really. I think we've been played for mugs, and some of us saw before it started that it was wrong. It's enabled so much kind of, I don't know, self-interested robbing of the country blind by a few self-entitled toe rag elite, you know. Why people can't see it, I don't know. But I think they're beginning to a little bit. So I do think there's consequences coming. I thought I'd missed the boat with my record because of lockdown, and it takes a while to get a record out when you're a bit older and you're not Shania Twain or somebody like that. But weekend before last, I got asked to do a session with Clem Burke in New York. So I flew to New York and did that, and I squeezed in some press there. And on the Monday, I was going uptown to Rockefeller Plaza, where Sirius Radio is, and stuff like that. It's a big radio station over here, and couldn't get a cab. And I couldn't get a cab to go and promote my record Consequences Coming because Manhattan was in a state of mess. Because coming down Fifth Avenue the other way to the big courthouse downtown was Donald Trump to go and be arraigned. So maybe I hadn't missed a moment until now. I got a small amount of pleasure out of that. As my dad used to say, little fish are sweet.
Absolutely. The album cover has a photo of you holding a Hofner lead guitar on the
Right.
front. What
Off the
made you go?
president. Well, what it is, I'm actually a big Tommy Steele fan. Tommy Steele, it was always kind of passed over in the rock hierarchy thing. But he was England's first rock and roller. He had the first English rock and roll hit with Rock with a Caveman, and he played a Hoffner President like that. And then also recently, I came across a fantastic picture with both him and Alex Harvey as a young man having a little jam backstage, and they both got Hoffner Presidents. And there's a little guitar shop up in Kilburn, and I went in there to get some strings, and wow, there's a Hoffner President, so I've had to have it. And
Uh,
it sounds great. It sounds as good as my Les Paul Junior.
uh-huh.
So
But also, you're known. I mean, you've played acoustic guitar on an album, and you're known for being a bassist. Do you want to kind of make a point? I'm a lead guitarist as well, or rhythm guitar?
oh, I no, I don't pretend to be a lead guitarist at all. I think it's in fact Johnny Rotten always said, muscle is something you employ. You employ a lead guitar, a good one. But I'm not bad as a rhythm guitarist. And I like playing bass, but I like playing bass when somebody else is singing, and it's to do with showmanship. And it's to do with showmanship. And if you're playing guitar, you can go blam and point and go, come on, you lot. You know, you can't do that when you play bass. Hey, let's take it down to the bass and drums and clap it. Oh, I'm playing. So that's kind of why, really. But every song I've written on the guitar. And that's a few classics as well as a few not so known classics. But all the stuff on my album, a couple of things might have started off as a keyboard riff, but I'm not really a keyboard player. But you tinkle around and get ideas. It's a good thing, actually. I heard a great program on Radio 4 about music and songwriting and how people's records after 3 or 4 records tend to be the same. And the guy was saying it's because they always use the same instruments, and it's to do with muscle memory. You go to the same kind of chord sequences and
Okay.
things, which I'd never thought about. So, yeah, maybe write on a keyboard once in a while, or get a little melodica, or learn the saxophone, which I might do because my neighbours are annoying me, and it'd be great to sit on a back step, trying to play some Bill Haley, da, 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 badly.
They might move. They might move out when they hear about this.
Yeah, God, not on. And you can't play the saxophone quietly.
Head on a Stick is the first single release in January. It sort of sets the tone for the album. It's a great up-tempo track, and it's a kind of a call to arms for the people to protest in a way, isn't it?
In a way, it is. Yeah, I like to see the people what have done. It's a bit Ernie Wise, this, but the people what have done us down. I think they should be held to account. I mean, Boris Johnson's come a bit unstuck, with his world king kind wishes. I mean, that didn't last very long, did it? But I got the idea for the Head on a Stick song. I went on, for want of a better word, Brexit is dopey march, right? Yeah. Hey, come on, let's all join the Brexit is dopey march. And there was nearly 1 million people, and I bumped into Kevin Rowland, and he was marching, from Dexys Midnight Runners, who's an old mate. And we were walking along Piccadilly, and there was a guy just behind us, like a Rasta guy with a big tricycle with a little trailer on the back with a big ghetto blaster. And he was playing music, but one of the songs he played was Let's Stick Together by Brian Ferry, as we're going towards Parliament. And I thought, what a great place to have your record played. So it kind of had that kind of,
Healed.
yeah, feel to it. Maybe the Consequences coming in song. But I write a lot of songs just walking along the street. A little idea comes in your head. And it's when those ideas don't go away, that's when you pick up the guitar. If you want to write a catchy song, if you can't remember it yourself, how do you expect anybody else to? Right, is my kind of maxim.
Sure.
But when those ideas stick, then it's time to do something about it. And in fact, if you don't do something about it, they drive you mad because you got this sort of earworm going on all the time, and you might just have a little idea for a lyric and stuff. And then you've really got to sit down and apply yourself to work out what it is you're trying to say as clearly and as succinctly, and also maybe hopefully with a bit of tongue-in-cheekness as well.
Well, I was going to pick up on that because you noticed that, particularly in the video, and it made me wonder whether the real motivation behind it is frustration or anger.
Both, really. I mean, I've kind of got a little bit of name for myself when that single come out. I did a couple of breakfast shows and went on about what I feel about this, that, and the other. And he said, "Are you angry as you was in the '70s?" And I said, "No, more so, but I'm kind of more irate than and no, livid than angry now. It's kind of gone past that, but it's kind of a slow kind of move towards revenge is a dish best served cold kind of thing. You know, and I go on these marches and write songs about it because all you can do is vote and all you can do is show your colours. I love that guy Steve Bray in Parliament Square with his loudhailer. He's like a kind of a gnat or a mosquito just sniping away at their ankles all the time. And I think the more people that do that, maybe one day they'll just run off into the distant blue horizon, probably to a tax haven. But you just keep having a go at them all the time,
Well,
I think.
I noticed that you do actually, of course, do more politically than just talk, because, and I wanted to give a shout out to the album you released just 6 months ago, which was in Poland with Raymond Mead, where I
Oh, okay.
supported the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, well, I'm friends with Ray. I've done a few kind of little sessions with him. He's a good lad, good guitarist, plays bass with Ocean Colour Scene as well. And he's got some kind of connection with the people over there. In fact, I didn't really realise at first that where the thing was in Auschwitz because he sent me a flyer and it's written in Polish. And I was like, oh, that sounds... When I got there, it was like, oh, it was a thing to... help Ukrainian refugees. It's some of them who set up camp there. It was fun, it was educational, and it was also for a good cause. So what's not to like about it? We just did a gig and somebody recorded it, and they're trying to raise a bit more money by selling a few. I'm sorry, I don't know how to get rid of these things. Yeah, for a good cause, and I
Great,
appreciate it.
great.
What was interesting though was that where we did the show was in an old deconsecrated synagogue that has now become a Jewish museum. But it wasn't a Jewish museum because of what happened in the Second World War. It was already a Jewish museum before then. And Auschwitz, the town itself, is lovely. But then we got taken for a ride outside, and whoa, heavy duty stuff. It's like the Auschwitz camp is there, and then Buchenwald, which is about 10 times as big. But then there's blocks of flats, people living there overlooking. It's kind of all a bit weird. But I like doing things like that because you get to see how the world works.
Absolutely. That's great. I'd like to turn to one of your other tracks, Speaking in Tongues, where you sing Ain't Never Heard So Much Untruth, which I guess primarily refers to Trump and Brexit.
Yeah,
But I was wondering if it also might refer to Danny Boyle's series Pistol, where they again suggested you were thrown out of the Sex Pistols.
yeah. But it doesn't refer to Danny Boyle's thing because
Doesn't.
I wrote the song before that came out and I'd seen the finished article. I was disappointed in that. I thought it was important that it went ahead because it was based on Steve's book, and Steve's book, he should have been allowed to write because he was the guy that started the band. But I was disappointed. I don't want to go on about it too much. I think it's kind of been and gone now, the movie, a little bit.
Well, why do you think these rock myths are so popular and they endure? There are so many of them.
Well, I don't know. Could Robin Hood really, in an archery contest, split the arrow of the bloke from before? He'd already got a bullseye. I don't know. It's like they're kind of like easy motifs for filmmakers and things to hang something on. I think it's just a bit lazy writing and journalism and
Yes.
stuff. Go away. It's that time of day when everybody's getting up. I'm here with a Blondie camp. There's building work going on in the hotel. So everybody has been offered a free breakfast to make up for it. And now Debbie Harry and Clem Burke are texting everybody, hey, have you seen the free breakfast voucher we got? And I've already got mine, but I'd already had a croissant by the time I'd seen it. So I've given it to my son who's staying with me, and he's just sloped off to claim his prize. The wacky world of rock and roll.
Another great song on the album for me is Consequences Coming, the title track, including the line, there'll be some consequences coming and then the sun will shine. Is that a kind of vague hope or a real belief?
Cross between the two. It's, I hope it will become a real. That's a real belief that I hope it will happen. How's that sound? He said,
All right.
fencing. You know, you got to have a dream, because if you don't have a dream, how do you expect to have a dream come true? You know, that's from South Pacific and covered quite well by Captain Sensible. Happy talk. You got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how do you expect to have a dream come true? We all got to get up in the morning and look on the bright side somehow.
I noticed you have the Blockheads' Norman Watt-Roy and playing bass, and David Bowie's Earl Slick playing guitar on many tracks. How do you decide whether it is you or they who play bass or lead?
Well, I never play lead, as I said
No.
earlier. I only
Yeah.
play the song goes like this and kind of try and steer it in that direction. Norman, I started recording the album a good few years back, you know, and then lockdown happened and I had to kind of put it on ice for a bit and sort of look at some of the stuff. But I went to see the Clash exhibition that was at the Barbican, and it was the kind of Friends of the Clash opening night kind of thing. And I was standing there chatting to somebody, and Norman Watt come up. Hello, Glenn. Hello, Norman. How you doing? And I was starting recording a couple of days later. I said, what are you doing this week? He said, nothing. I said, I thought you'd be busy. He said, everybody thinks I'm busy, so they don't call me out. I said, well, I'm going to the studio. When it comes to play some bass with me? And he went, I'd love to. So he came down to the studio, easy as that. And Earl, I'd been gigging, you know, we'd been playing around England. We did the Fuji Festival in Japan and some other stuff and all. And he was in England at the time, so he came down as well. You know, what's good, I promised them the world, and they end up with a cappuccino and a sticky bun if they're lucky, but they still do it anyway. But I do the same for them. And that's kind of what I like being a musician in my kind of sort of little league of things. Everybody mucks in and helps each other out. I'm doing the Blondie shows here because I'm already in Los Angeles. It seemed to be a good idea, as I've got an album coming out as well, to do a show, my own show at the Roxy on the 29th of Roxy in Los Angeles. And Clem said, well, do it. I'll play drums for you. And then we roped in this other guy, Steve Fishman, who's a mate who plays bass. And then I said, we need a lead guitarist. I can't afford to fly Earl over from the East Coast and put him up. And Clem said, how about getting Gilby Clarke, you know, from Guns N' Roses and loads of other things. And go away. So, sorry, all these. At least it seems I'm in demand, but it's only about whether I want my eggs sunny side up or not.
The album was recorded and mixed in both London, I believe Richmond, and LA. If I said, where is your heart, which city would you choose?
Oh, I don't know, but it was actually recorded all in London, and the guy who mixed my last album, Good to Go, get on great with, and he's good. And I met him through Earl Slick on another project, and he'd met him because he did David Bowie's last studio album. He recorded that, Mario McNulty, and they got a good rapport. And he mixed the album in New York. He lives in New York. He's got a studio at home. I don't know, you know, if I could afford it, I can see the attraction of people like, dare I say it, like Elton John or something. You got homes everywhere, and you can have a bit of time here and you can have a bit of time there. So, you know, most people can scrape together the airfare. It's just staying there for a good period of time where it gets expensive. But we help each other out. So, you know, there you go.
Turning the clock back now, I recall at 16 being fascinated when Never Mind the Bollocks came out, because it was both banned and it was also incredibly successful. How did you cope with all the fame at such a young age?
Um, Kind of got on with it, really. I mean, by the time Never Mind the Bollocks come out, I'd left and I was getting on with my thing, the Rich Kids. But 77 was, everybody thinks that was the year of the Pistols, but 76 is when we'd been on the front page of the Melody Maker, did the Abortive Anarchy tour, Anarchy in the UK come out, and we did the Bill Grundy show. That was all kind of later in 1976. And that was, nothing really prepares you for that. It was fun, but it was also a lot of weight on your shoulders as well. And that kind of sowed the seeds with the original lineup splitting up, really. It kind of brought everybody's conflicts. You know, when you're going up and down the country to try and play somewhere and then they won't let you and you're being followed by Fleet Street, which we was, across the Pennines, it gets on top of not just you, but everybody, really, you know. And also, I think, because John always got his face in the paper more than anybody else, I think it kind of got to his ego a bit more than the other people, you know. So that kind of up part as well.
But nonetheless, all the fame and adulation, the press wanting to talk to you, doesn't it change you, have to change how you respond?
Well, it does, but because you're in the eye of the hurricane, you don't really know if you're changing or not. I've always tried to keep my feet on the ground, you know. And some bands have runners go and do this for you and do that for you. I'd just rather go and do it myself, you know. I slope out. We was in Bogota with Blondie, and the tour manager, bless her, you know, thought it was a little bit unsafe, and it could be if you had never been to Kilburn, you know, or Tottenham or somewhere, and you know your onions. But I was sloping off. But then, because there was quite a nice little coffee shop a couple of blocks from the hotel I discovered, but I thought I was being followed. And then I started getting paranoid. But it turns out I was being followed because the tour manager had employed some local guys as kind of minders for us, but hadn't told us. So he was following me to make sure I didn't get... And I kept sort of hiding behind a tree to get away from him. But he could see me because I had a cigarette in the smoke. It's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah. If you could, what advice would you give to your young self about that time?
Well, I'm not a violent man, and you can read into this what you like, but sometimes maybe a right hook at the right time isn't the wrong thing. I think that's
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, of course, Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood, and recently John Lydon's wife, Nora Foster, are gone. Have you been moved by these losses?
Yeah, I mean, I knew them all quite well. Nora, it's very sad. I hadn't been in touch with her for a long, long time. I didn't really know her that well, but she was always affable, pleasant, up and smiley for me. It kind of echoed. I mean, Nora died of Alzheimer's, I believe, and I'd been through all that in kind of 4 or 5, 6 years ago with my father. So I know it's a horrible, nasty, insidious disease that steals people's souls. It's really hard work. So I feel for John on that. But there you go. Again, with Malcolm and Vivienne, so Malcolm, not so much. I hadn't really been in touch with. The last time I saw him was in New York, maybe less than a year before he died, because it turned out he had asbestosis, which once you get it, it gets you pretty kind of quick. Vivienne, again, the last time I actually saw her was at Malcolm's funeral, and we kind of got on great. In fact, I remember her getting out of the cab, and I was waiting for it to start, and I was standing outside with Paul on the curb. And Vivienne got out and went, "Oh, Glen's here, you know, that's lovely." You know, it was kind of cool. And we kept in some small touch for her sons, who I know. But yeah, I think Vivienne was the big talent there in the fashion world. And I was privileged to be invited and went to her memorial at Southwark Cathedral. And really, it was an eye-opener. It was like everybody in the fashion world. And Chrissie Hynde sang a song, "Raining in My Heart," you know, the Buddy Holly song, and Nick Cave played the piano and sang a really good song, and it was just everybody there. Yeah, but I did reconnect with a guy I'd met in Paris who was a friend of Malcolm. It transpires he organised the gig we did with the Sex Pistols at a place called the Chalet du Lac, and he's a fashion designer himself called Jean-Charles Le Duc de Castelbarge. He's got his own fashion line, and it was great meeting him, and we've kept in touch since then. So I find funerals and memorial things, you're not really looking forward to them, but they can be quite cathartic exercises, really. Be good if they didn't have to happen at all, but that's life, you know. Yeah.
The last time we spoke, you said John and I are not the best of friends, but we're certainly not enemies. Have you been in touch at all recently?
No.
No.
It's the court case and the film didn't really help anything, you know. So
Okay.
it's been well documented elsewhere. But you know, the thing is, if you went to journalist school, I don't know what you started out, or if you worked in an office, you might have been chummy with Fred from accounts or Sebastian from the photo library room. But it don't when you were 19. But it don't mean you're still in touch with them now.
Of course.
So it's not really any different in that respect. But the night before last, I went out for dinner with Steve Jones because I'm in LA. You know, yeah,
Nice to catch up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, within bands, there's different kind of combinations of what people get in. You know, what relationship they have.
You're slated to play on Blondie's studio album this year, I believe. Could you tell us
Well,
something
I,
about
I, well, we've already done a whole lot of recording in last autumn or the fall they call it here. It's kind of on ice a little bit because we're touring. I'm not really party to what's going on, but I enjoyed doing it. It sounded pretty good, but when it's coming out, I don't know. You better ask them. I'm sort of once removed from the whole Blondie thing, apart from this tirade of free breakfast.
Do the tracks that you play on sound poppy, like, I don't know, like 70s? Do they remind you of the parallel line stuff, or is it completely different?
No, it's kind of different. I think what I like about Blondie is they keep attempting to sort of move on somehow. You
Yes.
know, their influences and the band's changed around a little bit. There's another guitarist who's standing in for Chris Stein who doesn't really feel up to tour for personal reasons. I don't really know, but I'm not going to go into that anyway. There's a guy called Andy Blacksugar. He was in it, but Chris was in the studio. Yeah, I was knocking a whole bunch of ideas around. But what I've always liked about Blondie, yeah, they did have a poppy edge, but they always had a sort of an artiness to them too. You know, in the way that maybe Talking Heads have, but Blondie's version of that. You know, and they didn't keep churning out Denis. I mean, Rapture is like a funk rap song, really. And in fact, we played Coachella. You do it twice. We did it last Friday, and we're going to do it this Friday coming. But last Friday, we had Nile Rodgers got up and did a couple of numbers with us, which was kind of interesting, you know. And he started doing. I'm standing next to him. He started doing that chic kind of sort of four to the bar kind of thing. It was kind of cool, yeah, yeah.
Well, to close, you're playing on Blondie's tour. You've recently played on Iggy Pop's Lust for Life tour, and of course, you're promoting this album with some touring. How do you balance all these various commitments?
Just kind of get on with it, really, and try not to lose the email strain, you know. And I've been doing a hell of a load of press for my album, which is great that people want to talk to me, and I appreciate that you just do it, really, you know. It's just try not to pull your hair out.
How does it look?
I'm touring with Blondie at the moment. The Lust for Life thing, I mean, it wasn't Iggy didn't do it, but it was all people who played with Iggy, and I only did that last minute because Tony Sales was supposed to be doing it and couldn't, and they were stuck, and Clem said, "Oh, come and do this," and we did like 11 gigs in 13 days around England and Ireland in little clubs, you know, almost in the back of the van, not quite. That was hard work. The Blondie thing, you know, they fly you everywhere, business, and put you up in a nice hotel. So rough with a smooth, my boy, rough with a smooth, you know. I think if I was just doing all tiny little clubs all the time, always now, I'd probably be looking elsewhere. You know, I've got my freedom pass. I could get my pension now if I wanted to, but I want to keep working. But you know, I'm fortunate that I'm not a bad bass player, as well as being a singer-songwriter type, and the phone rings, and I get to do things like this. So I appreciate that. But the hardships of being in the back of a van gets tempered by sort of sitting around in a nice hotel in Los Angeles or wherever. You know.
Wonderful. Glen, thank you so much for your time and your generosity in answering our
Cool.
questions.
All right, thanks for your interest, and good luck with your new enterprise. All right, mate.
Thank you.